Yeah, how you doing, Al? My name's Austin from Florida. I was recently looking around on the Army's website, army.mil, and I came across this document called the Civilian Inmate Labor Program. This was put on 2005, and I was just like reading over the first couple pages. Just in the first couple pages, this document on the Army's own website talks about converting military bases and installations into giant prisons and establishing civilian inmate labor programs. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
This is on army.mil if anyone wants to look it up. It came out in 2005.
Another conspiracy theory.
This is on the Army's website, sir.
All right, so we're all going to be in prison, right? They're going to have prison
Well, I don't know, but, I mean, obviously there's a document that has established...
Yeah, there are lots of documents in lots of places.
But this is on the military's own website.
Yeah, okay.
There,
yeah.
Army.mil.
Okay.
In the past few months, I've done a video dealing with a talk show host who does a Sunday news show or talk show. His name is Joe Pag. And I'm doing this follow-up video for those who might follow this guy. And I wanted to bring out some strange coincidences that have recently happened within the past 5 weeks regarding him. What I said in my first video as a recap was that he is a bigot because when he hears people call into his show that he either is under orders from the president's office to kind of null and void their conversations, or for whatever reason the journalists who are supposed to be objective, they don't hear something they like or think it's going to be bad towards him as the president, they cut him off. And that's what he did. He was on the phone lines with an individual, an elderly man, who called in and started to tell Pag about what Obama had been doing as president, that by all understanding is illegal and was unauthorized for the past 8 years that he's been president. And Pag basically took a machete in a literal sense and he shredded this old man on radio. He, first of all, he didn't literally say shut up, but he told the people in the control room, cut the guy off, which he did. And he said this, all right, that's enough of that. Can't hear that anymore. And then he started to kind of do a rendition of giving praises to Obama about how he is the greatest president we've ever had. He has never done anything wrong as president. He has this, he has that. And anyway, so the video was to say to Joe Pag, if you're a journalist, you are not objective and you are not open-minded, because a journalist, no matter who you are, gives somebody the equal opportunity to share their feelings on the air. And he did not. And in doing some research in the previous couple of weeks, I decided, I need to respond to Joe Pag because indirectly he did actually see my video. He had to. But this is how he did it on the radio. He went on the air and he brought up this story, and I think it was a story, and this is how it goes because I didn't record it. He's telling the audience that there was a case where somebody was on a college campus and they were driving around, and anyway, one of the security officers for the campus police stopped him. And he told this guy in the car, you're being given a citation and a ticket because of something that's on your car. And he said, this bumper sticker you have, I find it offensive. And the other college campus people, especially students, he claimed that they complained about it. And so what he did, he gave him a ticket. So this individual tells the cop, excuse me, but aren't we guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States for freedom of speech? And he said this to the individual. He said, that's hearsay. Nobody justifies saying that the Constitution or the Bill of Rights is relevant in our society. Even though he didn't say it exactly in those terms, he said to him, The Bill of Rights and the Constitution are worthless pieces of paper. And that's what he was saying to this kid. He's like, First Amendment doesn't apply on this campus. It doesn't apply anywhere. And so here's sort of like the climax of the entire subject. Joe Pag is sitting there and he's saying this story to everybody. And he says my name on the air. He says David Carter. And I don't consider it a coincidence, because he implied that somehow or another David Carter was either the police chief for the campus police department for this college, or somehow there was some tie-in with my name. And I got the hint from his broadcast that he was trying to say to me that, first of all, he saw my video. 2, this whole story is sort of like indirectly trying to say to me personally, because he said my name, for crying out loud, on the air. I agree that you think I'm a bigot, and he's also trying to say to me, people like yourself who have freedom of religion and freedom of right to see and say what they want to on the YouTube services and all the rest and the social media, he's saying to me, wake up, because it's about to all end. That's what he was trying to say. Because through this story, you get all of it. You get the nut and the shell and everything. That he's saying, you might have rights, but that doesn't mean that those rights are going to last for any length of time. And certainly, he meant when he said that story about this kid trying to say to the cop, you don't have the right to take away my freedom of speech. And this is what Pag was saying to me. I can't strip that YouTube off, but I can certainly say to you, as somebody high enough in this, the media, that your right to say what you say to me or about me or anybody else is about to end. That's what he was saying, because the Constitution, which guaranteed everybody the right of free speech, is about to be shredded in your face. That's what he was telling me, and I had to say that in a video. And there are some things in the video I'm going to share with everybody, some audio clips of things that deal with the fact that the government is already controlling what we do. And in the past 9 years, before even Obama became president, there were several people in politics who were telling the public that there are things that's happening that no one wants to see or refuses to acknowledge that's happening. And the more you sleep, the more those rights are taken away. And before you know it, there won't be any. So you won't care whether or not you had those rights, because the government's going to say you can't use them and you don't have them.
In 2007, President Bush signed a National Security Presidential Directive 51. The unclassified portion of NSPD 51 states that in the event of catastrophic emergency, a cooperative effort among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the federal government, coordinated by the President, will replace normal governmental procedure.
Most Americans would agree that it would be prudent to have a plan to provide for the continuity of government. They have such a plan. They introduced a little sketchy public version that's clearly inadequate and doesn't really tell us what they have in mind. But they said, don't worry, there's a detailed classified version. But now they've denied the entire Homeland Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government. They say, trust us. Trust us.
George W. Bush or Barack H. Obama, the corruption, the tyranny just expands like PDD 51, where the president says, Congress, you have no authority over any way the government runs ever again during an emergency. The presidency runs everything. You are literally titular. You are a figurehead. You are ceremonial. And congressmen then on the Homeland Security Committee, as high a level clearance as the president, said, we want to see the entire PDD 51. And the White House says, no, you don't get to see it because PDD 51 removes you from that process. This is high treason against the people. It is high treason to have the executive telling the Congress, you can't see Presidential Decision Directive 51. You can't see its accompanying executive order. You don't have any authority over anything anymore.
And that's what's happening now in this country. 2016, the government is consistently saying to you over and over again, what you read in the history books is only history. It is not fact. And that includes the Constitution, that includes the Bill of Rights, it includes the Declaration of Independence. All of that was something that existed maybe 20 years ago in the 90s, but it doesn't exist now. Because the homosexual movement continues to advance. It's getting larger every single day. And Obama, who is the dictator of the world, says, you know, it isn't a matter of whether you believe in what they live by or how they live. You're going to accept, and that's it. There is no questions asked. And that's the philosophy the government takes about you and everybody else. You don't agree with something, that's too bad, because now they're saying you got to accept it. And I'm like, hey, you're not going to pry the lid of my brain off and tell me that I have to live a certain way, because I still have free thought, unless the government's already controlling people's minds. And that's another subject too. But I recommend everybody who might want to know about government manipulation of your mind to watch a series of DVD videos called the Montauk Project. We always thought it just had to do with time travel. That's not true. The Montauk Project also dealt with mind manipulation and mind control. And the government has been experimenting and perfecting the ability to transmit microwave signals. And you know what a microwave is. That's like the communication towers everywhere for the telephone relay links. And I'm sure it's been perfected for cell phone technology in the past 10 years. And what it does, it sends an alpha signal out to your brain. And it's like white noise. What is white noise? White noise is what you hear every time you go in a doctor's office for a psychiatrist or a psychologist or somebody. It sounds like the air conditioner running, but it's not. It's actually the government is using these type of devices that send a calming signal or sound to your mind, and it's supposed to basically, they claim it helps you relax. Well, it does more than that. It brainwashes you. It basically eliminates your emotions out of your mind, so that if you're already agitated when you get in there, you're not going to feel that way by the time you see your doctor. But now the government has a way of using white noise with subliminal suggestion and several other tactics, and they send that stuff out over the air every single time you're using your cell phone, your iPhone, your smart pad or smartphone, your Android, whatever device you've got. They're transmitting that stuff to you. And you can laugh about it, but the Montauk Project's been proven fact. But they already had the way of transmitting subliminal suggestion, emotion control to people who lived within about 100 miles or even more than that, 300-mile radius of that Air Force station. And it's supposed to be on Long Island in New York. That's where Montauk is. And it was a mind-opener. A part of a program called HARP, which is high altitude. They manipulate weather is what it is. It's more than that. HARP also relates to subliminal transmissions of microwave to control people's minds and control the weather. So when you had one thing happening, the other would have never been thought of. Hey, you know, why is the weather so bad today and these kids are going out shooting other children? It's because that's what the government's doing.
Folks, we've got a very serious situation here. I'm holding what is called the right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate, fueling resurgence and radicalization and recruitment. And in it, we talked about the fact that they define pro-lifers as domestic terrorists. They put this in a Department of Homeland Security document, this official assessment, now saying pro-lifers, people that believe in end-time prophecies, people that are opposed to the administration's position on immigration, those of us that are standing up for the sanctity of life and for the sanctity of marriage, all of those are now potential, and this is what they're saying, domestic terrorists.
It's a terrorist next door that could be our bigger threat.
Thank you for watching, Joe Pag.
It is a big idea. A new world order.
President Bush said that the New World Order was in tune, and that's what they were working for. The UN is part of that government. They're working right now very significantly for a North American Union. That's why there's a lot of people in Washington that don't care too much about our borders.